Well, all right. Welcome back to As It Should Be. Paul Bertolino here in the world famous As It Should Be studios. All right, Crystal Durant in the world famous As It Should Be studios.
Hello.
Tommy Von Voigt in the world famous As It Should Be studios.
Hello.
Recorded live for 1971. That's right. We are doing our top favorite live albums of 1971.
Top 5.
We got 5. We're doing our top 5. We'll see what Tommy does. But all right, let's do this. We'll do this. We don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. But we're not going to find out just yet because I start.
Oh, well, somebody's a fancy man, aren't you?
I got the last word.
It's it's the shirt. That's why.
Oh, I see.
And the puka beads. Please note the puka beads.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Serving. Puka bead realness.
Oh, okay. I have no runners-up for 1971, but I do have 5 albums.
All right, yeah.
All right, coming in number 5.
Number 5.
Coming in number 5, I have Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young with Four-Way Street. Recorded in summer of 70 at Fillmore East, Forum in L.A., and Auditorium Theater in Chicago. And, the thing about this record, it's like, this is another one of those records where there are a lot of songs on it that are only on that. But there are also a lot of songs on it that, like, they recorded this in the middle of 1970, so a lot of the songs on it are songs that ended up being on solo albums, like on Neil Young's After the Gold Rush, but After the Gold Rush wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
So the people hearing these songs at the show have never heard Southern Man before.
Brand new.
And stuff like that. And Love the One You're With. Like, those people who were listening to that song at that show have never heard that song before.
That's correct.
So that's kind of crazy.
Huh.
Yeah. But, CSNY, when they still had it, or, well, they were kind of losing it, but, it was still within bounds, I'd say.
Yeah.
Number 4, well within bounds. Aretha Franklin live at Fillmore West. Woo!
Wow.
Yeah, this was like a 3-night stint in 71 at San Francisco's Fillmore, and it's just fucking badass. This is one of those albums where there's, just one album worth of material that was released, and then later on they put out expanded. There's like an expanded version of like 6 discs or something with all this kind of stuff.
That's crazy.
But in the case of this album, they chose good stuff. I mean, they did kind of go heavy on the stuff that would appeal to like the white hippie kids. There's like a Beatles fucking cover, and there's Make It With You by Bread and shit like that. But it's Aretha Franklin doing it, so she makes something out of it. It's her live doing it. And you have Billy Preston up there, and it's
because it was black, y'all. It was black, y'all. Yeah. It was blackety black, y'all.
Yeah, Pretty Purdy and all those fucking motherfuckers up there.
I mean, come on.
So sure. All right, so number 3, an album I have here. Chicago at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Woo, boys, there's a whole lot of record here.
How many records are in there?
There are 4 records in this album.
Wow.
And they did a whole week of shows at Carnegie Hall here and sold out every show, and the entire run is recorded. So they did this whole this is a 4 album box set. This has like 3 posters in it, a booklet. It has 2 posters. I can't even, it's stuffed with stuff. I can't even get it out. Seriously, I'm not even going to try. There are 2 posters of the band in there. There's a poster of the exterior of Carnegie Hall. There's a book. There's 4 records. It's just, they put out all these sets these days of, like really, really, really expanded sets of classic albums, Exile on Main Street, or whatever you want to call it. Rubber Soul, they don't do Rubber Soul yet, but you know what I'm talking about. Revolver, and people pay $100-$200 for it. This is the first of that kind.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just like, I can't believe that this was able to come out and be at all affordable. But, I mean, it sold. Like, this shit got to number 3. People bought this by the bucket loads. And, you spent the 80s and 90s and the 2000s going to used record stores, and you would see 1,000 of these live. Because a gazillion people bought this.
Yeah, for $5.
And that really speaks a lot to how hugely popular Chicago was. That you could do that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But, yeah, I mean, but it's also, that album really shows off just the prowess of that band. And that's one where I actually don't mind the long extended jams, because Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it gets a little bit much, and I'll admit I actually haven't listened to the entire thing front to back because there's a lot of record there.
Yeah.
And also just like the Aretha record, they have actually since issued everything they have. There's like a 16-disc version of this that has the entire week of shows.
Man.
I have not even begun
That's
to
too
even
much.
try with that. I'm not going to. But
Yeah.
anyway, number 2. Elton John, 17/11/70. Yeah, oh man. So, of course, this is a broadcast that he did. He was here in New York City at WABC.
WABC.
WABC, ding, ding, chime time. And,
That's right.
yeah, and, you know, it started making rounds as a bootleg, so they ended up putting out. They didn't do this with the intention of putting it out, but people bootlegged it because it's so fucking kick-ass, and so they put it out. And it really is. I mean,
It's great.
this album absolutely smokes. Elton just comes out just swinging on
fire.
this record.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear the whole thing. I understand it's out there. I know bootlegs came out where the whole thing's out there, and I have not heard the whole thing. I have heard some bonus tracks, but I would love to hear the whole damn show. I haven't. But what's here? Woo. All right.
It's great.
But my number one. Ooh. And this was one of those lists where when I started to do this, I instantly just put this at number 1 without even thinking. But I hadn't even figured out what else was going on the list. I'm like, oh, this is number 1. No contest. Curtis Live. The Curtis Mayfield live album, recorded here in New York City at the Bitter End. And man,
At the
now,
bitter end, can you imagine?
we have
being
all
in the
been on
fucking
stage.
bitter end.
I know.
We have been in the Bitter End 1,000 times. We've been on stage.
there.
Performed on that stage.
Yeah.
Performed on that
I
stage.
know.
This album happened on that fucking
I know
stage.
it. I know it.
Because the
Yeah.
bitter end is slightly bigger than this studio.
Slightly bigger,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually not a very fun place to play. I did not enjoy playing there.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass,
And like
but-
I'm in the back like, getting ready, and I'm like sitting next to this dirty ass mop bucket, and I'm like, you
Well,
know,
it's also
at
a little-
one
it's a
point Dylan sat next to
Yeah.
this dirty ass mop bucket.
It's
you
a
know?
little supper clubbish. You know,
A little,
it's a little
yeah.
supper
Yeah.
clubbish. But I want to say now there was a period maybe when I was maybe late high school probably. I forget exactly when it was. Maybe late 80s, and I was going through this period where I was really kind of gathering up all the Curtis Mayfield albums I could get my hands on. And I went into the Goodwill one day and went to the record section, and I ran across this album, and I was like, "Oh, Curtis Mayfield." I was like, "Oh, it's the live album." Yeah. Well, should I get this?
It's $2.
It was fucking 50 cents is what it
50
was, you know.
cents. Oh.
And I'm like, well, should I get this? It was in good condition. I thought, well, fuck it, I'll buy it. So I bought it, and I brought it home, and I put it on. Woo, shit, boy, am I glad I bought that record. That album. Now, this is the most truly live sounding, like, this is a record. You know what it was like. I feel like I was at that show listening to this record.
Yeah.
If any record captures what that show was like to be present at, this is the one. I mean, there's no way there's a single note of overdubs on that.
Oh, I don't think there is.
No.
Not a note.
I think it's all legit.
It's
It's all
completely,
legit,
yeah.
and it just has all the vibe. You have all the people in the audience just yelling out to him during, you know, and everything that was said between songs. It's just, yeah.
It's really
it's
awesome.
one of my favorite live albums of all time. Period. Curtis Live.
Yeah,
So,
it's
yeah.
great. It is great.
All right, so that's my list.
That's Lith.
And after these messages, we're going to be right back.
Now you can get your own rock scene together with the groovy new Rock Flowers from Mattel. 3 out-of-sight fashion dolls dressed in wild rock costumes with a real record and a posing stand for each one, so she can twirl on any short spindle record player. And look, you can buy these exciting rock fashions to dress and pose them in. The new Rock Flowers. Each comes with her own costume, posing stand, and Rock Flowers record. Dolls and other costumes sold separately.
All right.
Okay.
We're back. We are back, and Tommy. List on, dude.
List
Oh, list on.
Okay. So I have a mention
I mentioned.
for 1971. Just a
Mention it.
mention, and that is UFO Live. And I wrote, I want to like this so much more than I do, but they just weren't fully formed yet as a band. They
How?
just weren't.
Wait a minute. When did they form?
This, like 69 or
Nine?
something like that.
Oh.
This album was recorded when they still had their original guitarist. It's before they stole Michael Schenker from the Scorpions.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, oh boy, did he make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, on to my actual proper list. I have a top 7.
Top
this time.
7?
7 for 71.
What the fuck, man?
I know. Now I kind of went back and forth about putting my number 7 in there because there's some goofy bullshit that goes on this album, but the live performances are really, really enjoyable, and that is the Jackson 5 with Going Back to Indiana, which was from a TV special.
Yeah, it's a TV soundtrack.
Special,
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 6, I've got Ike and Tina Turner live at Carnegie Hall. What you hear is what you get. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, my number 5, I've got the Yardbirds with live Yardbirds featuring Jimmy Page. Now, this was actually withdrawn because Jimmy was pissed off about it, and then they tried releasing it again in 75, and he demanded they withdraw it again. And it was finally released again where they remixed from like the proper tapes. And it sounds really good. And that was in 2017. When
Yes, that was pretty recent. Yeah.
Is that what he was mad about?
Yeah, he was mad at the sound quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this was the one I recall reading about where, in fact, that the tape that they had been issuing it from even said like something like, poor copy, don't use. And that was the one that they were using, or some kind of screwy,
some dude with a lab
screwy
coat and a
bullshit.
cigar went, here you go, here's the tape. Yeah, use that. You
These
know.
hippie fuckers don't know what's
They
good
don't
for
know.
them anyway.
They're not going
you
to
know?
know the difference. They're just
Who
screaming through the
cares?
whole
They're
thing
all doing
anyway.
drugs.
Well, it turns out they did know the difference because Jimmy Page immediately sued to make them pull this from the market. So, but it's actually a pretty kick-ass live album.
It's pretty good. I totally put it on my list. That's one of those albums. I like it, but it's just not on my list because I stuck with 5.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. My number 4, Curtis Mayfield. Curtis live at the bitter end.
Yeah,
Had
man.
to make my list.
Yeah.
Did not know it existed before doing this. And when I listened to that, I was like, well, fuck me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you saw Curtis Mayfield live at the bitter end
Apparently
as well.
I did now.
you were
Yeah,
at
I was at that show too. Yep.
Yeah.
You weren't even a zygote, but that's okay.
No. All right, so on to my number 3. I've got Chicago with at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
That, which is actually where you had it on your list, was at number 3.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wrote that this comes dangerously close to being way too much Chicago.
It is, but there's nothing there that I dislike. It's just more than you can sit through in one.
And that's the
in one
thing. I
sitting.
can't listen to that whole album straight through. It's just too
no.
goddamn
I never
much.
have.
Way too much Chicago. My number 2 is the same you had for number 2, Elton John with 171170.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that brings me to my number 1 for 1971, and that is the concert for Bangladesh, George Harrison and Friends. Yeah, I know. And it seemed like the most obvious choice for this year, but when I assessed it, I was like, I think this is the best one of the bunch.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest fan of that. I don't dislike it at all. I feel about that when I think the way Crystal feels about Get Your Yeah-Yeahs Out.
I could see how people might, but I listened to this and George sounds like he's on fucking fire.
He does.
on this
He does
record.
sound good. He's in good voice on that, and it's kind of fun to listen to, say, Something or Here Comes the Sun, knowing that Ringo's on drums, and imagine like, oh, this is the Beatles live in 1971.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So that to me for 1971.
All right.
Yeah. I get it.
Yep.
All right.
I get it.
Break.
I get it.
Dry, D-R-Y, dry, D-R-Y, desert dry, bone dry, dial dry. The time release formula in dial antiperspirant reacts when you react to help keep you dry in the morning, dry at night, dry when you're mad, dry when you're tense, dry when you're hot. Dial antiperspirant with time release. It keeps you dial dry.
You know about the frisbee, yeah. You know how it goes, groovy. You can get a frisbee free
Tails on boxes marked like this.
Get your frisbee free from Cheerios.
Oh yeah.
All right, Crystal. Crystal. What about one of those lists? You got one?
Yeah. I have runners up.
Oh, shit!
How about it? Okay.
They're not jogging up.
So what?
They're not jogging up. They're running up.
They're running up.
See, I can't
They're-
say. Come on. My jokes are just too subtle for people, you know?
They're not sprinting up. They're running.
Pedestrian up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I have here are my runners up in no particular order. I got George Harrison, Concert for Bangladesh. I got Chicago at Carnegie Hall. And I also have The Revolution of the Mind live at the Apollo 3, the James Brown, which to me is a close second to the first live at the Apollo. There is a marked difference between them. But it's good. So those are my 3 runners up. Then there's my lift. Coming in at number 5, I got Four-Way Street by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Like Paul already said, they do solo stuff there. It was, after the first album, blah, blah, blah. Ohio!
Oh, hi, oh.
Ohio. Ohio. Yeah, that's great. Coming in at number 4, I have the Allman Brothers Band at Fillmore East. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And too much for a lot of people. And I completely understand why people would not want to get into this or listen to it at all. Because Whipping Post alone is 23 minutes long. But, I don't know. Like, I'm not a jam band person by any stretch of the imagination. If you've been watching, you know this about me. I can't stand jam bandy stuff. I don't like the Grateful Dead. I don't like Dave Matthews. I'm not into that deal. But for some reason, this works for me. I don't know, because it's the Allman Brothers. And they were great. They had 2 drummers and 2 guitar players, and they worked it better than the Dead to me. And Dickie Betts was on fire, and yeah. I love it. Also, Dwayne had said that he listened to A Kind of Blue for 2 years straight, and that's Miles Davis. And to me, that really comes through this concert to me. So I like it. And then 4 months later, he died in a motorcycle crash, which was very sad. Coming in at number 3, I have What You Hear Is What You Get by Ike and Tina Turner live at Carnegie Hall. Hot, 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 hot. Okay, they do covers of Otis Redding. I've Been Loving You Too Long alone is like pornography. I don't know if you ever listened to it, but it's like audio porn. They do a very dirty version of it. They cover Sly and the Family Stone. They cover the Rolling Stones.
Isn't there a Beatles cover on that too?
Yeah.
Because it was the law back then. You had to put a Beatles cover on.
There. I forget which one they did, but yeah.
It sure as hell did turn up a lot on these things.
Well,
It couldn't not do it. Yeah. Aretha Franklin, everybody did a fucking Beatles cover.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But,
Otis Redding, whatever. Coming in at number 2, I have 171170 by Elton John, which, as Paul said, was recorded here, WABC in New York City.
Did we all have that at number 2? I think we did.
I think we have a trifecta at number 2.
We do, yeah.
Trifecta. And the version of Take Me to the Pilot
Oh, fuck, man.
with just Nigel and Dee
Yeah, man.
is...
That alone. Honestly, if the rest of the album sucked, I would put
That
on
is
listen to
it.
that track alone.
And if you're not a big live album person or whatever your thing, just listen to that song off this album. Period. That's it. That's all
Yeah.
you need to hear. It's transcendent. It's one of those moments where I felt like I was there and I was floating.
It kind of does the same thing that the Curtis album does.
Yeah.
Not to quite the same extent, but still.
But it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But my number 1 live album of 1971 is Fela, Ransom Kuti, and Africa 70 with Ginger Baker live.
With Ginger Baker.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. So, at this point in time, Ginger Baker, Cream had broken up or whatever, and he was trying to get his mojo back somehow. And he was traveling the world, listening to all kinds of music, and fell in with Fela and did this record. So he was not a big part of this album because it was Fela's band, which is a monster. I don't know if there are any documentaries on it, but Africa 70 is just a killer band. They're amazing, absolutely amazing. So Ginger Baker was kind of like holding on for dear life by somebody Fela's coattail, you know.
And Fela was sort of, tolerating him.
Him, basically, yeah. And so it was kind of an even exchange. Like, this was the first time that a lot of white folks had experienced any Afrobeat music wholesale, and it sold very well. So it was like, shake hand, like, I'm washing your hand, you're washing my hand. It's great.
Right.
So it reached out to the European and American audience, and he was basically swallowed up by Africa 70. You really don't even notice him in there, because Tony Allen, who is Fela's drummer, somehow grew like 4 extra arms and just played the fuck out of this. So yeah, it's really great. It's really, really great.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Originally, I was going to tie it with Curtis Mayfield because that is really great, but this just, I don't know, kind of overshadowed it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
All right, we're going to have a little break here.
And now for the new F&M, the new Christy Minstrel.
The winds of time are changing, F&M is rearranging, doing the things that you want us to do, getting the things that you want, because we want you, because we want you. F&M, your lifetime bank, because we want you, because we want you.
After you've found the car you want, buy it the fast way with a First & Merchant's 15-minute new car loan. 15 minutes to apply at any F&M office or at your dealer.
F&M 15-minute new car loan. The shortest time between the car you want and the money you need to buy it.
F&M, your lifetime bank, because we want you, because we want you. F&M, your lifetime. Close your eyes and see what I mean. You'll see lemons when you smell Mr. Clean.
New lemon refreshed Mr. Clean gets the dirt and can leave the wax even shinier than he did before. So you get a sheen.
Open your eyes and look at your floor. He can get it shinier than he got it before. Lemon refreshed Mr. Clean.
All right.
Oh, hey, we're back.
Yeah, we're back. And what are we doing?
The things we don't like.
It's time to hate.
Time to hate. Okay. I'm already. This is only the second episode we've shot today, and I already don't remember where
He's
we
already
are.
out of it.
All right, so we're hating, and I believe I'm hating first, right?
Yes,
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Hate us about it, Paul.
Hate us about it.
About it, Paul.
Okay, so I have 2 worst ofs, and then I will reveal the album that I
right.
didn't speak about in the last episode. So what I have actually on my list, and these are legitimate like albums that I think are crappy. Well, no, one of them I just don't like them. One of them I think is crappy. One of them I just don't like.
Okay.
Judy Collins with Living. And now I don't think this is crappy because I don't think obviously Judy Collins is talented and does what she does very well. I'm not into. I don't like that style of singing. That sort of Disney princess sort of like like with the heavy vibrato kind of thing. I just not into it.
No.
I can't. And speaking of albums by the groups that I just can't with, and this was a big thing at the time, and it became a much bigger thing in the 70s, and they had a TV show and everything. Sha-na-na.
Oh.
I just
Oh my God.
I didn't even bother.
I couldn't even bother.
The thing about it is like it's just people really were into them in like 69, 70, 71. Like the hippies and everybody kind of took them seriously. Well, not took them seriously because I know they kind of knew it was a bit of a shtick, but they actually were into it. And I know it's, them doing doo-wop and everything, but it just sounds like a TV variety show version of a doo-wop group.
It's corny.
It's just corny. It's totally corny, and I'm just not into it.
And I thought that it was really funny to see them. Were they at Woodstock?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got all of these amazing, and then you got Sha Na Na up there in leather jackets and greased hair.
But
it's
people loved it.
I know, but it's just such a weird thing. Yeah. It was very odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were the ones basically who ushered in the 50s nostalgia of the 70s.
70s, yeah.
You can thank Sha Na Na for Happy Days.
God damn it.
All right, okay. So anyway, the record that I didn't discuss in 1970, that's actually a 1971 album.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm going to repeat this. I'm not saying this album is bad, not by any means. There's nothing bad about it. In fact, if you're into this, I can see where it's probably absolutely fucking great. It's just not for me. And I was also really desperate to come up with something to put on my 1970 worst of list, and it ended up not even be a 70. Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore East. The reason why I put that on my bottoms list is not because of any shortcoming of the album itself. It's just that I listen to this and I'm like, man, this is just a bunch of meandering blues shit that is just, I can't.
Yeah.
It's meandering blues. Executed masterfully, but I mean, I don't like opera. Pavarotti's probably fucking amazing, but I don't want to listen to him, That's how I look at it, He probably is mind-blowing, but
he is.
I can't do it. And that's how I feel about that album. And I went into this record to listen to it because I never really had listened much to it. I thought, okay, man, this is the moment. I'm going to discover this shit. This is going to blow my mind because of its, how people feel about it. I went into it expecting, like, this is going to go high on my list. And I went,
wah, wah, wah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, all right.
I got to do laundry now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No harm, no foul.
So, anyway.
All right,
Tommy. Let's
over
have
to
it.
moi. All right, I have got a bottom 6.
Oh.
So
Tom's got a whole lot of hate in his heart.
I do. It's just filled with hate.
Wow.
My number 6, Grateful Dead by the Grateful Dead. I will never, ever, ever get the appeal of this band. I just won't.
I don't get it.
My number 5. The Allman Brothers Band with that Fillmore East.
Probably for the same reasons, right?
Well, what I actually wrote was this is like listening to paint dry. Like listening to paint dry.
Yeah.
And then I wrote, pretty sure most copies of this had the slip sleeve used as rolling papers by 1975. I own a copy of this. I still think it sucks. I bought it because it was $1 and it was mint condition. I was like, everyone speaks highly of this. I guess I'll get it. And then I was like, well, I guess I don't like this. I remember years back, God, I forget even where the hell I was even living at the time. But my dad came and visited. And we was looking through my records and showing him this. I'm like, this one, and look at this one, and look, I got this record. And this was the same time that I showed him a Jim Croce record. He's like, oh, I saw him in concert. I was like, you did? What did he play? And he proceeds to rattle off a bunch of Frank Zappa songs because he thought I was holding up a Frank Zappa album because he was sitting across the room and thought Jim Croce was Frank Zappa.
Couldn't see clearly.
So we're looking at my copy of it, Fillmore East, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at the liner notes, he's looking at the photos. He's like, Tom. I'm like, what? He's like, I was at this fucking show. I'm like, you were? He's like, yeah, I was at this show.
At the Allman Brothers, the Fillmore East show.
When they recorded that album, this was the show where I spent the whole show staring at one of the drummers and I freaked him out. I'm like, you're shitting me. He's like, no, I was here. I was at this show. I was here when I was at the show they taped this at. And I'm like, well, fuck, was it fun live? He's like, I don't know.
I was gonna say, did you fall asleep?
He's probably high out of his mind.
I don't know.
And he also, you remember, this is the same guy that he gave me, like, he found all his old records in Grandma and Grandpa's house in the basement, and he gave them to me, and all of the slip sleeves were missing. And why were they missing, I asked him. He's like, I don't know, I probably used them as rolling papers. Leading me back to my comment on Phil Maurice.
Come on. I mean,
wow. Okay.
So, my number 4, Woodstock 2, various artists. Absolutely beyond pointless. They already put the shit you want to listen to on the first one.
well, a lot of the shit on that isn't even from the show.
Show, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they
No.
actually just put a bunch of shit on it that wasn't even from that
That's
show.
the show.
That I did not know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If there's any
It's
release
obnoxious.
that's
It's
just
horrible.
a moneymaker, it's that.
It's
rip-off.
terrible.
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
not need
Rip-off.
Woodstock 2. Number 3, Jimi Hendrix with Experience. And I wrote that this is one of the countless posthumous Hendrix albums that flooded the 70s. Not much to work with here. If you're not hip to it, one of the things I discovered at one point was I found... This was back in the 90s when I was really, really getting deep into music. And you could sometimes they would have books that were published that would list all the albums of, like, you know, every artist's discography.
Right.
I haven't seen one of these in ages, but I remember looking through some of those and finding just a shitload of Jimi Hendrix albums that came out in the 70s, all after he died, and they were all cash-ins. They were just scraping the vaults, anything that was recorded live. If somebody was next to a porta potty when he was taking a shit, they would put that out on an album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't
And every
matter.
single one of those albums
it
has a
didn't-
version of Red House on it.
Yeah.
Every fucking one of
Somehow,
them,
right?
and it's just
It's
all
always
it's
Red
just
House.
bullshit. And there's so many you can't even keep track of them. And I think I mentioned this one and maybe one or two others at some point, but you just lose track because there's got to be 24 posthumous Hendrix albums that are just crap. My number 2, Emerson, Lake and Palmer with Pictures at an Exhibition. And I wrote that this did eventually lead to punk rock, so I guess that's a point in its favor. Because
It has its uses.
It inspired a backlash.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I remember Johnny Ramone saying that he was watching Emerson, Lake and Palmer on, like, Old Grey Whistle Test, and he was like, "What is this bullshit?" Chops I can't even dream of having, but, like, what they use them for the powers of evil.
Use them for the powers of good instead of
yes.
Evil.
But that leads me to my number 1 worst live album in 1971, and that is Fillmore East, June 1971 by the Mothers. And I wrote, this is stupid music for people who don't realize they have bad taste. And scene.
Yeah. There are definitely.
what?
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that way about Zapp. I really like the '60s Zapp or '60s Mothers albums, but when you get into the '70s, it just turns into this. It just turns so smug.
Everything is so stupid. It's just like,
It's just pee-pee poo-poo jokes.
Yeah, pee-poo jokes. It's like a bunch of noodly jazz fucking riffs, and that's why Billy the Turnup entered the room against his... It's like, what the fuck am I listening to right
exactly.
now?
And it's just...
This is just stupid. It is smug bullshit.
It's smug, and
It's
I just
smug
I can't.
bullshit. It's like they're so talented, they don't have to fucking play music people want to listen to, I guess. Like... They're too good for pop songs. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, all right. Well, Crystal.
What they said.
Are you just... Wait, is
She
that
doesn't
your
like
hate list?
Allman Brothers either.
Are you just co-signing?
Except for the Allman Brothers. I love that.
Otherwise, you're just going to co-sign our fucking...
I really didn't. I couldn't.
It's the same thing as 70.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah. All right.
Like, nah.
Okay. All right.
I'm feeling you. Not coming for you
Well,
on that.
good. So you don't have to come after Crystal about Allman Brothers, but
No.
So I know people are going to come for me over the Mothers of Invention. I know that.
yeah. Well, you know.
You know, the fucking Zappa
people have
files out
got to
there.
understand why that is polarizing.
I mean, if they don't understand why that's polarizing, then they are exactly the people I'm referring to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I get
All right. Right. Let's get out of here for a minute. We need a little break. We need a little break.
It's Woolworth Stereo Spectacular 71, a fantastic once-a-year sale of albums, LPs, tapes, everything in stereo, unbelievably low priced. Woolworth Stereo Spectacular has top stereo LPs, the biggest hits just off the charts for only $1.57. Famous labels, favorite stars, Herb Alpert, Petula Clark, The Association, Canned Heat, many more for only $1.57. And another fabulous group of LPs on sale for just 87 cents. Jack Jones, The Beach Boys, Guess Who, and more. And for children, the original cast album of Sesame Street, only 87 cents. Woolworth Stereo Spectacular has big savings on 8-track stereo cartridges. Dionne Warwick, Lou Rawls, Glenn Campbell, Blind Faith, many more for only $2.99. Supplies are limited, so hurry over and save during Woolworth Stereo Spectacular 71.
Thank you for shopping, Woolworth. It's the fun place to shop.
Diddly diddly diddly.
Oh, no. Hold a note by just stabbing a knife into it and walking away from the keyboard.
Diddly diddly. Yeah.
And that's the thing about those prog albums. Every single one of them have that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the madrigal carousel fucking
Of the elves. Diddly diddly diddly.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's get out of here.
back.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Leave.
All right. That's
Escape.
1971 live albums.
Yeah, it was.
For you. And we're going to get out now, but thank you for subscribing if you have. Maybe if you haven't, consider subscribing. If you do,
do it.
Click the little bell, notifications, and come back next week because we are going to be discussing our favorite live albums and least favorite of 1972. Yeah, 1972. So, yeah, come back and see what we have to say about those albums that you love. All right. Bye-bye.
72.
Meow. Meow?
He's getting a still shot.
No. I was just getting into the group, you know. You guys, okay. Oh, this is what we're doing now. All right.
He's just over there, just feeling the vibe.
I'm feeling the yeah. See, I'm sensitive to the vibes, man.
No, it's all about vibes.
Yeah, you know exactly.
The show runs on vibes.
Yeah.
Vibes.
Put on my mood.
The show runs on vibes and the support of viewers just like you.
Vibes.
Vibes with a Z, of course. All right. We're rolling. And have I touched my hair enough? Okay, all right. Well, all right.